Hello, good afternoon. Good morning here in Australia. Good afternoon in Aotearoa, New Zealand. My name is Juan Bautista Propato. I work for Football West in Western Australia. I'm based here in beautiful, I don't know if people see, it's a beautiful day. Basildon. I'm in charge of play development, coaching development, club support, anything to do with the football development here in the region. Before I was in New Zealand, where I met Stu, and then I was in Germany and of course in Argentina. But today we have Stu. How are you, man?
I'm good, Juan. Thank you very much. Can't say that I'm a beautiful Western Australia, but it's a typical Wellington day, windy, a little bit cold, but we haven't been hit with the rain yet, so we're lucky at this stage.
Nice the only thing missing is the rain and the phoenix.
What's that? Sorry.
You know, like the song, we got the Wellington Phoenix, we got the rain, the wind, and the phoenix.
Absolutely. That's normally the dose we get.
But it's in a beautiful day. Wellington is one of the top three cities in the world. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's nice. I mean, everybody says that on a nice, you can't beat Wellington on a nice day. So at the moment, they've been few and far between. But Wellington's it's notoriously a windy spot. So, if you're happy to put up with a bit of wind, that's a nice place to spend some time and live, I guess.
Yeah, it is. So tell me a little about yourself for the people that don't know you.
Well, basically, I was brought up in a place called Palmerston North, which is about an hour and a half north of Wellington. For those that have been to New Zealand, so went to school there. Kind of stayed there until I was like 16. Spent a little bit of time overseas. And then around 18, I relocated to Wellington and pretty much been here ever since. I came down to play football. So because at the time we had a national league in the winter, and Palmerston North, my local hometown, didn't have a national league team. So I had the option of going to Wellington, to Napier, to Gisborne, or to Nelson. I chose Wellington and been here ever since. I've got 4 daughters, so they keep me busy. They've dabbled in football. A couple of them are swimmers, and just had a pretty exciting journey with football, really. So that's been from 0 to 54.
Very good. And you played for the All Whites, isn't it?
So I had a couple of stints with the All Whites. I had. Early on, we had a couple of coaches, John Edsett and Kevin Fallon, who people may have heard of. They took New Zealand to the World Cup in '82. So Kevin got a role with the All Whites. I'm just trying to think when it was, probably '89. And I got chosen then to go on just a tour to the islands. We played Fiji, and then I had a bit of a hiatus of a couple of years, and then we had a coach come to New Zealand called Bobby Clark, a Scottish man via America, and he came and I had another 4 years from kind of 93 through to 97, I think. So, and at that point, it was quite a busy program. We played in Australia a couple of times. We had a tournament there, I recall, in Melbourne, playing Australia, Norway, South Korea. Couple of tours in the Middle East, through Saudi, through Qatar. We went into, at the time, I think it was Uruguay. We opened a couple of stadiums in Uruguay. It was just prior to the Copa America. We just built 2 new stadiums. So we played Uruguay in both of those. Got beaten 8-0 on the first game. I had a good team. They had some good players, Daniel Fonseca, Ruben Sosa, who at the time were playing Juventus. And we played them again kind of 3 days later, drew 2-2. So we had quite a busy program at that time with Bobby. And that was my playing career. I played, kind of 12, 15 years in the National League in New Zealand. And then I had early on, when I left school, I went over to Scotland and spent probably a year and a half in Edinburgh. So I had a trial at Hibs. I kind of spent 6 months at Hibs, and then another 8 months in a place called Kirkcaldy, which is just south of Edinburgh, and played for a local team that was playing in, I guess, the Div 1. I was in the U team then, a team called Wraith Rovers. But pretty much just local, really, just played in New Zealand, until I picked up the coaching, really. So I kind of went from playing into coaching straight away.
How was that transition? How did you start coaching?
Well, I mean, at the time, New Zealand had a national league in the summer. It was a club national league, and it was played in the summer at that moment in time. I'm thinking it was back in kind of 1996, 97. Wellington had a summer league team at Miramar. So Miramar, one of the clubs in the National League. I think Lower Hutt was in there as well. So if you can imagine, just like now with Team Wellington, like the franchise national league. So we had all of the kind of the winter clubs. The players came to Miramar in the summer, played the National League, and then in the winter went back to their winter clubs and played winter. And at that moment in time, I think it was the last year of the summer league. After that year, all the players went back to their winter league teams, and we in Miramar we didn't have a team virtually. We'd lost a lot of players. I think a lot of players were at the back end of their careers had retired. So that was 1998. I'd played that year National League with Miramar. But then they came to me and they said, "Listen, Stu, would you be prepared to go play a coach in the winter league for Miramar?" I hadn't really thought about it. I kind of got thrown on the deep end a little bit, but I thought, well, I still wanted to play. But I'd kind of had, I'd thought, well, when I finish playing, what do I want to do? And kind of coaching seemed to be a pathway that I wanted to follow. So that was 1998. So I started playing and coaching that year. So I think I had 2 years of being a player coach, which just kind of gives you a different perspective on the game because, as much as you've got to prepare the team, you've got to prepare yourself. As much as you've got to think about your role on the field, you've got to kind of consider what's happening with the team. And I guess the most important part for me is that I needed to have somebody on the sideline who kind of had a good eye as well, who understood the game, that I could kind of bounce things off. And so that always, from that moment in time on, I always felt that I needed a good number two. And I've always had a good number two. So I think that's really important.
Yeah, I did play and coach, and was really difficult. I didn't enjoy it, to be honest. There was a lot of pressure about making decisions on the sport, and you are playing and then coaching, and then so I guess how the idea of the, like you say, the number two came up, or before you started, you already thought, I need someone to help me, like on the bench or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, that's really, I guess it didn't happen naturally. It kind of happened by default, but because I just didn't know how things were going to develop really. Because I still had a real passion for playing. I still wanted to play, and I thought I could contribute still as a player. But then I've got this opportunity to run the ship as I felt I wanted to run it. And again, that was a learning process as well. So so I felt that I had a person who had been in the game a long time, was quite genuine. I'd known them for a long time, so I could trust them, and they kind of had a good feel of the game too. So I didn't feel I didn't feel under pressure anyway, because I kind of got thrown into the deep end. But then going into year two, as I felt more the opportunity to coach, I felt that I could just implant my ideas more on the team. So I guess that number two becomes more important because you're kind of leaning on them to give you some feedback around halftime and feedback around on substitutes. And so yeah, and I just felt that whenever I chose my staff, I always liked to have staff that had a different, just had a kind of a different view on the game. So I'd do A, B, and my assistant would do C and D. So we both had different roles and responsibilities, but they kind of still understood the game really, really well. And I just felt that from that time, that was a real important part of my coach learnings, I think, was making sure that I had somebody beside me who was, had a good understanding, a good eye for the game.
That's a really good point, isn't it? Because sometimes as a coach, the more you do coaching, you learn and you understand that it's exactly what you say. It's about the team around you. Like I say, even down here, I'm good as the coaches around me. So in the region, if my coaches here don't have much training, they don't develop, they don't do courses, whatever, I'm pretty much like them because they need to do the work I'm doing and replicate better, different way, but you need those mirrors or those kind of support in a coaching team where you could, you think something like, oh, maybe we should do that. And I, oh, okay, yeah, oh, that's a great idea, and it's about that trust. And also you show the players that also you could make mistakes, or, that you are connecting to your team, to the staff, you listen, and they're like, oh, yeah, I like this guy, he's,
I think it's really important, that's vital in how you, kind of how you put together any team, whether it's in coaching, whether it's in business, whether it's in life, I guess just in general. I mean, the people that are around you are the most important, and they're the ones you trust and, have good input. So yeah, I just felt that was a really important part of my coaching makeup, really.
Very good. And then after that, 2008, I'm very sure I'm missing a few things, but you coached the All Whites at the 2008 China, the Olympics. Then you built your own coaching academy. 2016, Coach of the Year. I didn't know. I was on big Wikipedia, winning the Central League in Wellington with Wellington Olympic, isn't it? How was that transition into coaching the All Whites first, 2008?
So I guess if you go back maybe 4 years, Juan, into kind of 2004, 2005, even earlier, I guess, we had who you may have known, a technical director called Paul Smalley that came to New Zealand, and he kind of changed my thinking on the game. Like, Paul was very detailed on how he delivered sessions, on his thinking on the game, and the 4-4-3 system, I guess, but 4-3-3 system then. And he put me into a role with the New Zealand under-20s. We had a qualification campaign in the Solomons, I think. Now that must have been like 1994. Sorry, 2004. So when you talk about learnings, so one of the learnings from that campaign is they had myself and a coach called Clive Campbell, and we were both technical staff. So we didn't appoint a head coach and an assistant. He kind of put us in there as technical staff members, and things didn't go well because there was nobody to make the decisions. It's like if you're a head coach and assistant coach, you both give you feedback, but it's kind of head coach that makes the decision at the end of the day. Well, with myself and Clive, because we were technical staff, we just found it hard to make a decision on things. So that was a tough campaign. We didn't qualify. I think Australia were in Oceania at the time as well, so they qualified through that phase. But then I got also appointed for the next campaign with the under-20s, was in 2007, which went better. So we qualified for the World Cup, which was in Toronto in Canada, 2007. So that was my first taste of international football, or coaching international teams. I also got appointed assistant coach to Ricky with the national team in 2005. So I did probably 3 years with Ricky with the All Whites as an assistant alongside Brian Turner. So again, they were kind of all learnings that that were really positive. We spent a lot of time traveling. We spent a lot of time playing kind of international teams that were kind of tucked away a little bit, but it kind of gave me a pretty good grounding. So once I kind of moved through that phase, that's when I got the opportunity to go in with the Ollie Whites in 2008 in Beijing, which was a good campaign. But again, as I said all the way through, Juan, I had good people with me. So I had in the under-20s, I had Sean Douglas, who was my assistant, who's now the head of Australia. So Sean was with me for probably 4 years, to the point where I got Sean to come down and play for me at Team Wellington because I was short of a centre back. So Sean was playing on one league at the time, but like he had a good career in the National League in Australia with Carlton at the time. He'd moved to New Zealand with his then Australian wife, I think, and I was after a centre back at Team Wellington. I kind of gave Sean an SOS call, so Sean would fly down on the Saturday morning, he'd play for me, and 9 times out of 10 he'd get man of the match because he was just a quality player. So we had a good relationship So Sean was with me through the second 20s campaign, and also Jonathan Gould, who was the goalkeeping coach. So then moving into the Ollie Whites, same thing. I had good staff. I had John as my number 2 at the time. We had a guy called Andy Smith, who was our fitness trainer, who worked for me through Western Suburbs, who I trusted. We managed to get him into the staff. The manager of the team, I really he was a second father to me. So again, I had good staff around me, Juan. And it was always tough. You go into the islands and you're playing against Fiji and the Solomons and Samoa and the tough places to go and qualify. But we managed to get through that, to then go and to get through to Beijing in 2008, which was the first time a men's team had gone to the Olympics. And we got stuck in a bit of a tricky group, but it was kind of a life-changing experience when it comes to coaching. When you get to those opportunities.
How was I remember? So I moved to New Zealand 2007. 2008, I went to Wellington another year to coach at 3 clubs, and around that time was a presentation from you about your campaign. That qualifying for China, so I couldn't make it because China saw it later or something like that. But how was that Olympics, the feeling, the games?
Oh well, I mean, it was we were going kind of into the unknown a little bit. It was an under 23 tournament. The Olympics are, but you can take 3 overage players. So we had identified we wanted to take Ryan Nelson, we wanted to take Simon Elliott, and we wanted to take Chris Killen. So at the moment, those guys, I think Simon and Nelly was playing at Blackburn. He was captain of Blackburn in the Premier League. Simon was at Fulham, I think. Chris Killen might have been at Celtic, I think, in the Scottish Premier League. So we'd identified those players. So I guess what we had is outside of that, we had plumbers, we had kids at university, we had guys working in clothing stores. So we had all of these amateur players that were going into this world stage, but we had to bring these kind of 3 superstars into our group. And that was how do we acclimate them into the squad? What are they going to think? Because they didn't go through the qualifying series with us. They turned up at Beijing. So we picked them up at Beijing at the village, and but it was fantastic. They were all very inclusive. They were all very much around really driving to help the team. So from that point of view, it was a fantastic opportunity to bring those boys in. And we had the first game we played was against China, so the host nation in the Beijing, in a place called Shenyang. We played 2 games in Shenyang, the Shenyang National Stadium. So I think it was about 80,000 people there, and it was a great experience. I guess one of the things that we were, Juan, is we were very fit, because we felt that technically we weren't going to be on the same page as a lot of the teams, so we had to make sure that our ability to work hard was a priority, really. And that kind of that bore fruits for us moving through that tournament. We played China. We went down to 10 men, kind of reasonably early on in the second half. We went 1-0 up, and then with about 3 minutes to go, they got a pretty freakish goal. So that ended up 1-1. So that kind of kicked the campaign off pretty well. Then we had Brazil as a second game, and then we had Belgium as our third game, and that was they called that Belgian team the golden era. So they had Mignolet, they had Kompany, they had Fellaini, they had Moussa Dembele. They had a good team. So it just what it did is it highlighted to our players and to our staff, the difference between playing in New Zealand and being the world's best. These guys were earning millions of dollars playing for big. Brazilians were playing. Marcelo was at Real Madrid, and Ronaldinho was at Barcelona, and so it was a real eye opener for us. But I think what it did do is it just it kind of showed that if you plan properly, if you look at your strengths and you work with your strengths, that things can happen. And I think it just showed in the game against China that we weren't played off the park. but we showed that because we were fit and strong and we could last, 100 minutes, that kind of helped us in the end. So it was a good learning. That was a good learning curve for us all, I think, for staff and for players, and also New Zealand football. I mean, they learnt a lot from that campaign, because we were the first ones to say, well, if you're bringing guys back from the Premier League in the UK, they can't fly economy class. They've got to go business class. It was the first time that New Zealand football have kind of got we can't be, we can't be putting people in business class. Well, you're going to have to, or the clubs aren't going to release the players. So all of these firsts, these things that happened for the first time, were kind of around that campaign, really.
Well, and then many of those players were when New Zealand qualified to the World Cup, isn't it, 2010?
So a number of those players went through to the 2010 World Cup with Ricky. So again, it provided an opportunity to expose them in international tournaments, international football against some of the best players in the world. But it probably gave some of them the real stepping stone to push on. Like Brocky's gone on, and we had guys like Craig Henderson that went and played 10 years in Scandinavia. Dan Keep the same. Who else do we have in there? Yeah, Jacob Spoonley. So there was a few that kind of went on and had a reasonable career in the game, just on the back of the opportunities that they got through their own hard work, so yeah, it was again it provided opportunities for players.
Yeah, I remember that game against China, all the games, and yeah, of course Brazil and Belgium. Brazil was an amazing team, how Ronaldinho and other players. But that game against China, if we didn't have maybe play with 10 players for 30 minutes or more, longer, it was
minutes, they got sent off in maybe 56 minutes. I mean, I think the sending off the second one was a bit innocuous, but the first one, it was just, I think Stephen just got a bit enthusiastic for the second one, and that happens, But then the way that we adjusted and the way that the players, kind of came together, and then, Brocky got that wonder goal. He was in a fair vein of form. He scored on the way. We played Australia. He scored 2 against them. So he was in a rich vein of form, and obviously got that goal against China as well. So it was a good campaign. But that was the end of my national. After that, the Olympics. That's when my national duty stopped. So then I had to find something else to do.
Then you opened your own academy, isn't it? Kaizen Academy, or later?
But that was a couple of years after that. So that was in 2010. And I just felt that at the time, when I was working in the national team, I was getting players that technically weren't proficient. So, the time that you meant to be spending on the grass working with them tactically around the game, you were spending too much time working on them technically to try and get them to a level where then you could, tactically work with them. So when I came away from the national team game, I felt, well, if I'm saying that out loud, I've got to do something about it. So I started this game called Kaizen, and just really worked on basic skills for kids, passing left and right, first touch, bang, bang, bang. Because I thought those things that we weren't good at. And I had a good group. That's when I met you, Juan, in Germany.
Yeah, 2013. You guys went. I played with the Borussia Dortmund. Played in England, Crystal Palace. I think you beat Dortmund 2-1 or something like that.
We beat Dortmund 2-1. We played Crystal Palace. They beat us 4-0. We played Liverpool. They beat us 9-1. I think they were a good team. We went into played Dortmund. We went into Italy and played Intella, and we played Genoa. That was a good trip, and a lot of those boys. When you think about Dommy Waldridge and you think about Dalton, and so a lot of those boys then, when they were about 13, maybe a year after that trip, they went to Olé, because I'd kind of got to a point where I couldn't, I couldn't do any more for them, and kind of Olé was in that space, and they moved across to Olé. So that was kind of the start of Kaizen, and we did a few tours. I think we came to Australia and we played in went to Tasmania. We played kind of some of the state federation teams.
Yes, they would be.
So
Not sure.
I think Dean May was he was in Tasmania. Dean May.
Yes, he was in Tasmania. Yeah.
Tasmania. So we kind of dabbled on a few trips. We did that. You know, I took some boys across the US. So, but Kaizen was really set up to just instill these good habits and good techniques in the kids at a younger age, and kind of spent 9 years, 10 years with that. It's still bubbling away. As we Guichet came on board, he was involved for a good 5-6 years.
Yeah.
So that was the start of my own experience, and then I guess 2014 I got the chance to come across to Australia to work with the Mariners, to work with the Central Coast Mariners. So that was another good experience. I was kind of head of youth there, so working with the National Youth League team, and then kind of helping with the first team as kind of a semi-assistant with Wayne O'Sullivan. There was, I think Phil Moss was the head coach at the time. Wayne O'Sullivan was the assistant, so I helped Wayne with the first team, and then headed up the under-20s. And I had an assistant coach beside me, a boy called Rui Toma. He was Portuguese. Again, lovely guy. Really knew the game. I could trust him. So again, I had another really good assistant coach at the Mariners. So that was a good experience. But again, what you find there with the professional game is if the top doesn't succeed, it kind of filters down. So we had the first team didn't have a great second year. Phil got dismissed, and then that kind of they changed the first team stuff, and the whole thing kind of went. So, but just another experience really.
How was that transition from? Oh, some noise here. How was that transition from New Zealand to Australia? The level on the youth, similar, different, more players, better structure.
Yeah, well, it was interesting. Certainly, the players were better. So if you can generalise, the Australian players were better. But when I went across to the Mariners, so Sydney had got their youth team organised. West Sydney Wanderers had got their youth team organised. So then it was, okay, so what players have we got left? So I kind of set up trials in Sydney. We had probably 200 kids through 2 trials. So we trialled in Sydney, we trialled in the Mariners. And then we came up with what I thought was a reasonable squad. When I went in there, the previous group were training on a Tuesday and a Thursday, playing on a Saturday. And then my vision was, well, if you want to be A-League players, you can't train twice a week and play on a weekend. So then I changed it to we were training every morning. So the boys would turn up at 7 in the morning and would train from 7 until 9. The boys at Sydney would travel in. The boys that were still at school organised with their schools to start later. So they kind of started like 11:45. So it was good. It gave us a good opportunity to work more together, more contact time. And there were some of the players like Lockie Wales ended up at Melbourne City. Jake McGing popped out the top. He went to Brisbane. Josh. So there was probably 4 or 5. Trent Ohaja, who's now at Sydney. But there was 4 or 5 that came out of that program who when they came into the program, you could see they were good. They were going to be A-League players. It was just they needed to have the work. They needed to put the work in to establish that, and they did. So that was, as I said, I think if I talk about under 20 players, I think their under 20 players were obviously a shade better than what we had in New Zealand. But then it was just kind of what how do you kind of take them to the next level, and so again another experience really.
And then you went back to Wellington, isn't it? To coach Olympic.
So I went back into Wellington. Guichet had been running Kaizen for me, so Kaizen was still going. So I came back to Wellington, and so Wellington Olympic approached me to go there and coach. They were a Greek ethnic club. I played for them for 2 or 3 years when I was still playing. I found them a great club, good people, very passionate about football. So they approached me. They had this vision that here's this 5-year plan that they wanted to establish. So I kind of went in there. I brought Guichet in beside me as my number 2. We had some good people, some good staff, and we just kind of got to work. And we had some good players. We had some good young players coming through. We got more players coming to the club kind of through Kaizen, and that was kind of 2016, I think. So we had a good year. 2000. We won the Central League. A little bit was by luck, but you need that. But we had a good team, and again, they were fit one. We had Carlos Juncker.
Yes,
he did our conditioning, and there's no grey with Carlos. It's you're either fit or you're not. So we spent, I got them training in the mornings. So people said, you won't get them training in the mornings. And I said, well, we're not going to train at night because, as you know, in Wellington, the turf bookings, you get stuck at 8 o'clock until 9:30 at night. And I said, well, I'm in bed at 8 o'clock, so we're going to have to train in the mornings. And the kids loved it. They just felt that it was.
How was that training during the week? What do you do every day?
Yeah, pretty much. So we, so if you looked at our week, we'd play on Saturday. They'd recover or have Sunday off. They come in Monday morning. They'd come in Tuesday morning. We might get some of the younger ones come in Wednesday morning. Then Thursday morning, and then Friday we started doing like an afternoon session. So they'd come in at 4 o'clock, the ones that could, and we'd do an hour, because I always used to like doing a little bit of a bounce session on the day before the game. So I'd work for an hour. I'd get the group in. I did this at the Mariners with the U team. We'd get them on a Friday for a Saturday game or a Saturday for a Sunday game. And we get the starting 11 in. We'd try and get as close to a second 11 as well. So we had a good 20 players there. And I used to like a tempo session. So, if you look at your RPEs, we're getting the boys up around the kind of 7 and 8s. Like they're working pretty hard the day before the game for an hour or 45 minutes. Because my philosophy around that was always, when I was playing, you'd kind of go and you'd do set pieces. So you'd be standing around, and I just felt trying to get from a 1 or a 2 on the day before the game to then try and get to a 9 or a 10, which is a level you need to work out for a game. I felt psychologically the gap was too big. So then I felt, well, if I bring my players in and work them at kind of close to the level they need to be playing at the day before the game, only for 45 minutes, I think their minds were more conditioned to then doing that again the next day. So I used to do that with all of them.
So the player feedback was they liked it. They were pumped for the game.
They were fine with it, yeah. Okay. And they began to, if on the odd occasion I'd go, listen, we won't train on the Friday, they'd go, we prefer to train. So it kind of got to the point where they embraced it. Physically, was it helping them in the week on the Saturday? I don't know, but psychologically it probably was, because they felt that they came into the game on the Saturday just a wee bit more alert and ready to go. So so that was kind of our week. But again, Juan, I used to speak to Guichet about this a lot. I'd go and I'd ask Guichet, so if we played on the Saturday, I'd go, so what do you want next week to look like, Guichet? Are we going to get them in every day? Should we give them a couple of days off? If we've had a good wee run. So again, there was no kind of black and white for me. It was, I think the players look a bit tired after the game today. I think we need to give them some time off. So we kind of managed that a little bit around, making sure that we got the work out that we needed to do with the players. I just think when you're winning, you don't have to spend so much time on conditioning because the players want to play anyway. So again, we could use that time that you might use for conditioning more to, some technical work or some tactical work. So it was really like you just kind of got to get a feel of what the players are feeling like, and maybe what the players are wanting, and then kind of get a bit of a balance, because like we don't play the game, so we don't always know how the players are feeling. But I think if you've got a reasonable eye, And again, I used to trust Guichet a lot with his eye. Like he'd go to me and he'd say things during the game, Stu, or he'd say during the week, no, let's get them out on the pitch and work them. So, so again, I was I was happy to adjust. And I kind of did that. And again, I think that grounding that I got way back when I started coaching as a player coach, because I was still playing, I felt myself what I felt like the next day after a game or 2 days after a game. So then I'd manage how I felt with the other players. So it kind of that gave me a little bit of a grounding as well around, how I then manage programs as I move through my coaching career.
Yeah, and I guess with experience, is the art of coaching, and that's sometimes hard when the coaches go to coaching courses and they say, oh, you guys tell us to do that and whatever, and I yes and no. So
yeah.
That feeling, like my friend Juan Rucci say, the experience come. I do have a few white hair. You don't see them? When you start to see few white hair, they will come. They will come. When you see the white hair coming through, and it's just, we cannot explain, like you say, Guiche, what do you feel? And yeah, we should need to do this, or no. And the same with sometimes with the starting 11, or who's on the bench, who's not. You see someone during the week, you try to change it, whatever, and then, oh yeah, this happened, and maybe they get it out of the chest, and then you get them back, or sometimes players are off the whole week, and maybe they're supposed to be best player, and then on the weekend, you have that hard conversation, say, so this weekend you're going to be on the bench, and then you see how that player will react. They're more important the team than themselves, and then maybe that will tell you something about that player. You can always work with them, but as a coach, for me, it's also fascinating because it's the art of coaching, and what you do here and it's good, you go there and it's not the same.
Totally different
group, different people, and that's sometimes why coaches are really successful from one country or whatever. They go to another place, different environment. You go there, the assistant coaches are not people that you know or trust. So it's just a different environment. It's just the head coach, and then it's kind of hard to do things in the way that you would like to do. If you go and the setup is another setup, and it's just can you adapt quickly? Can you change things around? And I guess that's always a challenge for us as a coach.
Doesn't always work.
No.
As we found out moving through, on a year 2 and year 3 at Olympic, part of our plan was to, we had probably 40 young kids under 20s that we wanted to move through the program so that so it was sustainable. I guess they could hit their 5 years, and they had a strong club, they had a strong a strong ethos, and I guess when we tried to push that through year 2 and year 3, we got some resistance because we weren't getting results. And then it was, okay, so you probably need to be a little patient here because, we've got some new players, young players coming through the club. We probably didn't recruit as well as we probably should have. We probably recruited some players that we shouldn't have got in the club. And then obviously the board, they want success. So, and they weren't getting success. So that's kind of when things, again, you've got to be, I was very definite on what I wanted to achieve at the club, and I kind of put that through the board very early on, but they didn't allow us to follow through. But I wasn't going to change my principles because people wanted to win. They wanted sustainability was what they wanted initially, and we'd kind of built this program. We'd brought players to the club that would provide that for us, moving through year 3, year 4, but the club wasn't patient enough to, sustain their vision. They wanted success every year. As I said, I think year 1, we got it in year 1, and we had a little bit of luck, but we had some good players. We had some older players, but that needed to change. So again, learnings from that. I just think you've got to plan. We're not Barcelona, we're not Real Madrid. We are New Zealand, we're Wellington. So I think if you've got a plan, sometimes you've got to stick with it. The outcomes maybe aren't what you think they should be or what they're going to be, but Long term, I think if you stay with your plan, you'll get there. But we just couldn't. We weren't able to stay with the plan. We didn't get the time to bring it to life in those later years. So that was disappointing. But again, you kind of you move on. You move on.
Yeah, it's happened with the top clubs. After Guardiola left Barcelona, Valverde came, Tata Martino, this guy, and they couldn't really find the formula. And the coaches, I want this guy, and they're like, okay, boom.
Yep.
And at that level, that would be nice, isn't it? But I guess, yeah, it's hard, but like you say, you need to move on, isn't it? Life move on.
Just got to go, yeah, keep following the dream.
So I guess you did mention a little about a mentor, but who do you see now your biggest mentor in your coaching career, and why?
It's a hard one. Like when Bobby Clark came to Wellington, so he was a coach. I was a player, so it wasn't like I was coaching at the time, and I'd lean on Bobby for advice, and so he was a coach. He was a coach, and I was a player. But when I was playing for him, I liked the way he coached. So he was very he did things very simply. He was a good man manager, so very good very good with people. His planning was like meticulous, and that's probably one area to think about. What could I do better? I could probably plan better. But Bobby was a very good planner. Yeah, and just a good person, like you could trust him. He was such a nice man, and I just think the game in New Zealand probably took advantage of that with him. So he was just the person that I learned just a lot of how to be humble, and how to be he was very soft in the way he did things. But if you weren't at training on time because you were still getting ankles taped, then he was very like, okay, next time we've got a problem. So he was very black and white on what he wanted, but just the way he put it across to players and the way he managed players, I like that side of him. Plus he really understood the game. Like he'd give you your role on the pitch, which he'd make sure that you knew, implicitly how it worked. But then moving through, I don't really have. There's no one that I phone up and go, I need some input. I like to watch teams, so I like Brendan Rodgers, so I watch a lot of Leicester. I like Guardiola, so and when I say I like them, I like the way their teams play. So I kind of pick little things out of of how teams play. I think you learn a lot when you go on coaching courses. I think you meet some good people, you network a lot, you take some good and bad things out of courses, I think, which you can take into your own coaching philosophy. And I lean a lot on the people that I have with me. So, there's a lot of young coaches out there now that have got, some really good ideas. So I'm always picking their brains. For example, at Scott's here, I've got Bahanu. I don't know whether you know Bahanu. So Bahanu does some coaching with me. He's young. He's a player, still a player, but he's got some good ideas. So I'm saying, okay, Bahanu. So here's some things. Put your ideas down on paper. Bring them in. Bang, bang, bang. So I like to learn by watching. I like to learn by listening. So again, I guess this lockdown's given us an opportunity to go onto podcasts and listen to other coaches or former players talk about the game. I think you learn a lot from that. So I just pick bits and pieces up really, Juan. And but I think you've got to have your own. You've got to be your coach. You've got to be. I wouldn't model myself around anybody. I kind of treat the players how I'd like to be treated. And I always say, the football park is like a workplace. It's like an office. So if I'm working in an office, I wouldn't be standing up and yelling across to somebody on the other side of the office, effing and blinding at them, which you hear a lot on the side. A lot of coaches do that with their players. They eff and they blind. And I'm like that. Well, I don't think that's right, because the first and foremost, they're there to enjoy the game. But for me, because football's full time, like the football field is my office. So I'd treat people on the football field as I'd treat people in the office, which is with dignity and respect, and I'd try and speak to them in the right way. And that's kind of the philosophy that I take through my, I get upset at times, absolutely, but I'll probably abuse guichet the players. But I just think you've got to keep all of that in perspective. So I've got my own way that I want to treat players and my own style of man managing. But I also pick things up from, if I hear nice things from other coaches, I'll bring that into my personal philosophy. But then I like to watch teams play, and I'm just now putting together. I'm just changing my model a little bit because I'm watching a lot of Borussia Dortmund. I just like the way at the moment that they play. Like they're they kind of play with 2 6s in there, who are very mobile, who are good on the ball. But I like the way they play at the top end as well in that last third. So I've been watching a lot of them, a lot of Dortmund play, and kind of just changing my playing model a little bit just around how they do things. So again, there's a lot of that you can learn from.
Yeah, and talking about, so many good things you say there. And one example is about the honesty and the way you are. Is like, for example, the example you gave before, that you want to do this was a 5-year plan, and people say, no, we need to do this, or you need to change around. No, this is a 5-year plan. We want to do that. And then you stick to yourself, what you say to the players, to your staff. And now we'll talk about you. Like you say, your office is a football pitch, is the players. So, it's, the people say, Stu's a good man. Good, you are doing something right, especially if one of your top values, like you say, in many different positions you were, national, in Australia, New Zealand, you have good people around you. So you're talking about the good people around you, and it's not all about you. It's the team around you that make the team, because it's really hard. And you see even sometimes coaches now, when they start to accuse everyone or attack players and whatever, and you completely, doesn't matter who you are, Juan Bautista Propato, Stu Jacobs, you lose the change rooms. The players don't trust you anymore. Doesn't matter whether you won the Champions League or whatever. It's about that people skill. And again, like your example about mentor or people you follow are good leaders everywhere they go, because the person is the same person here in Australia, New Zealand, Argentina, etc. So it's so important to be true to ourselves.
Absolutely, and that kind of sums it up. And you can't be good at everything, Juan. You can't be a good man manager, you can be, but can you be a good man manager, a good planner, a good deliverer of the work on the field? What do you like on get? So it'd be nice to have all of that together. But I just think, and I look at again Brendan Rodgers, because his first team coach is a boy called Chris Davies, who he's an English boy, came to New Zealand to play football for Hawke's Bay, and then he came down and played for me at Team Wellington. And he went back home, and he got an opportunity at Swansea with Brendan, and then he went to Liverpool with Brendan. At Celtic, Brendan's at Leicester now. And Brendan always says that Brendan's a good man manager. Brendan understands the game. He knows how he wants it put across to his players. But he's got a very good person beside him. He knows that he can deliver the work at a good level. So again, he's not having to worry about what Chris is doing down the other end of the pitch. He's got good people that he knows. So again, it comes back to those people with you as well. You've got to have your own principles, but then you need to make sure that the people that are with you, you can trust, as well as trust that they're going to do the right work on the grass with your players. So it's all, it's a package, but it helps if you get the right people in that package.
So just kind of to summarize the interview, what advice would you give in this current situation to players and coaches?
I just think follow your dream. We always say to kids, and I talk to them a lot at Scots College. you know, like when you finish year 13, what do you want to do? You know, do you want to become a doctor, a lawyer, a cleaner? You've got to have a goal. I think you've got to have that end. You know, like what did I want to do? Well, I wanted to play for Liverpool. They were my favourite team. You know, I never got there, but so you've got to have. I think you've got to have an ultimate goal. You've got to have a bit of a plan how you want to get to that goal, I guess. And then ultimately you've got to work hard to try and achieve the plan to get to the goal. So like anything, and just and don't try and be somebody else. Like that's what I've tried to do with my coaching career, is I've tried to be Stu Jacobs all the way through. And yes, I'll take advice and I'll take criticism and I'll take direction, but I've tried to be, so I haven't gone onto the pitch and tried to be Brendan Rodgers or, you know, Pep Guardiola or Graham Arnold. I've gone to the pitch and I've been Stu Jacobs. So nobody can go to anybody and say, well, you know, Stu's different. He's different to what he is on the field to what he is off the field. So I've tried to, you know, maintain my own personal philosophy as well. So I just think set your goals and work hard to achieve them. I think if you're a coach, gain knowledge. So I think, you know, going on courses is always good. I think, you know, you can do a lot of research on the internet now, which is good. I think watch football, and we always say to our players, like when you watch a game of football, watch a player of the team in the position that you play. So I don't just watch it to watch the game of football, but kind of analyse it a wee bit. So I like watching football. I don't sit down there and count the passes, but I kind of sit there and go, well, that was a little different. Maybe I can bring that into the way that I want to do things. So again, just be a little bit different as well. I think bring kind of different things into your profile and enjoy it really. If you don't, I think the day that you stop enjoying what you're doing is I've always said the day that I can't demonstrate, or the day that I stop enjoying turning out for training or match day, is the day that I'll go and do something else, make pies or whatever it might be. So I think you've got to enjoy what you're doing. Otherwise, there's no point doing it, is there?
You know, we only have one life, so we need to enjoy
life.
So anything else that you want to cover, mention that we didn't talk about it?
No, I mean, it's been great to be offered the opportunity to speak. You're doing some things in the game yourself, Juan, which is good. You know, you're prepared to step out of your comfort zone from what you were doing in Wellington to Waikato, and then you were probably in that New Zealand bubble, but you've decided to go to Australia, and so, you know, credit to you for that. So you've obviously got your goals that you want to achieve, and you're working hard to do that. So that's a credit to you. But no, just to appreciate being offered the opportunity.
No, thank you for your time. Appreciate it. For the people who know, when I was in Germany, I didn't really know Stu much, but kind of, I don't know, courses somewhere we met. I kind of saw that you guys were in Dortmund. I went to Dortmund to watch Borussia Dortmund, and Stu kindly, I was part of the delegate, helping with the team, whatever I was needed. I even referee again. I'm a really bad referee, but I could speak English and German. So
who was that? It was Johnny Mazur's in UA.
Yes. So we have a great time over there, and you kind of treat me like one more of the team. So I always appreciate that time. It was a very good time. So very good trip, awesome trip. Yeah. I couldn't watch that in when you guys then after went to Italy, isn't it?
Went to Italy, yeah.
Yeah, so I couldn't go to Italy that time, but you did really well as well. So
we always said next time, I think, didn't we? Next trip.
Yeah, always will be our next trip. Yeah, and especially after this craziness time, maybe I'm looking forward for the next trip.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's good one.
Thank you again for your time. Kakite, have a good day. And
you too.
My greetings to the people of Aotearoa. See you soon again.
Thank you. Stay in touch.
Thanks. Yeah,